Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I've got kind of a surprise review. Didn't expect to get these so soon, but this review is for the new Wave 4 Micromasters from Siege. They're coming in as War for Cybertron Siege number 33, and these are the Autobots Powertrain and Highjump. They're the only new set of Micromasters for the 4th wave. And they are kind of new molds. However, they've already had their remolds released a bit sooner than they were in the States here anyway. So you probably know what to expect. We're going to take a look at their packaging real quick glance at the instructions, then I'm going to look at these two in their vehicle and robot modes, compare them with their mold mates, and then give some final thoughts. So the packaging, standard fare, usual logos, their name, serial number, two bots right here on the front. Got some nice artwork of them on the top in their vehicle modes. Then when you go ahead and flip this thing around, you get to see renders of their vehicle and robot modes, as well as their combined weapon mode. And they have a old red alert here wielding it, just to show it off. And their collective name, their team name, is the Off-Road Patrol. Now, they're only half of the original Off-Road Patrol because of Hasbro and Takara's decision to only go half in on these teams, which I still really hate and I wish they'd reconsider. But for now, this is what we get. All right, here's a little instruction booklet. So you got Powertrain and Highjump on the front here. Nothing too fancy, right? Quick transformations to the vehicle modes. On the back, here's their weapon mode. And that's the name of it. It's the Confounder Cannon. It is confounding. They're not wrong. It's got some pretty awesome firepower behind it, though. So, because it's got redeeming qualities. All right, here's the two guys in their vehicle modes. Powertrain turns in this little semi-truck vehicle, and then Highjump is, I guess, like an off-road type vehicle, something you'd see driving in maybe like an African savannah or something. So yeah, nothing crazy to see here. This guy has a very, let's say, Transformers Armada-esque coloration. Reminds me of Armada smokescreen. Rolls, not so great. Wheels don't get a whole lot of traction. On the rear part, he only has one functional axle. The other part's just molded, doesn't turn. So a lot like the Dark of the Moon Optimus trailer that I just reviewed. You know, if you wanna check that out, you know, throw it a like. I'm just saying you could, just throwing it out there. Highjump over here, much more muted color scheme. Actually, kind of reminds me of Combiner Wars Off-Road a little bit, and he no roll so good either. So yeah, these guys, hell, his wheels get stuck here. Yeah, so functionally, they're not great vehicle modes. But they at least look alright. Maybe the weakest point is, I guess, Powertrain, kind of the obvious arm kibble, the legs showing. So yeah, I think Highjump takes it for vehicle mode. Alright, now we have our guys lined up with their retools from the Micromaster 10-pack that was available at Target pretty recently. Got Iron Tread and Rycon there. And I say retools, it's not obvious looking at them in their vehicle mode, but you'll see when we transform them what the difference is. So each one was given very different color schemes, as you can see. These guys generally have less paint apps on them. You know, this guy lacks the little window application right there. Rycon's little back area is not painted. But they do also make one thing really obvious. You can see these guys have these really big Autobot symbols on their hoods. And something you may or may not have already noticed about these two, they don't have Autobot symbols, like, anywhere. They're just not present at all. So that's an oddity, right? You have characters that are officially designated as Autobots, and there's precedent for it, but they have no faction symbol whatsoever. And that is really weird. Normally, the only time you see a toy without a faction symbol is when it's not officially affiliated with either faction. So I'm not sure why that happened, why they went that route. I don't know if it was just an oversight, but it's definitely an oddity. All right, we're going to transform these two, starting with Powertrain now. You'll see these guys are a little more complex than most of the other Micromasters in this line, as far as moving parts and steps for their transformation. So the first thing we do with Powertrain, we lift the front of the truck up like that, and untab his arms. Now this whole section rotates 180 degrees, and it's slotted in, so you kind of have to like pull away and turn it to get it to go. Untab his legs from each other, bring this down to where it's like nice and flush against his back, and there you go. That is Powertrain, his robot mode. He's a bit back heavy, so you got to be careful with balancing him. He kind of rests on his heels a little bit instead of his toes. And now we're going to do high jump. So with him, this hood part is on like a double hinge, so you're kind of pushing down on the front, lifting up toward the windshield, and bringing it up out of the way like that. His arms are slotted in from the top here, so you're going to swing them down like so. And the legs, pull away, straighten them out, and then you're going to turn his waist 180 degrees. Separate the feet if you haven't already. And then his backpack doesn't really like to go into place that easily. Let's see if I can show you. There's these grooves on that hinge piece that these tabs need to go into, so you have to press down kind of firmly to get them to stay in there. Helps if you swing the handle out a little bit before you do it. So you go like that, and bring this back. Should work better. Press down. You need to stay in. Push this down until it rests. And you may have to mess with it a few times to get it to actually stay in place, but can be done. Yep. It's annoying. You know what? I'm giving up. It's just going to stay like that. Because my toys' tolerances don't really allow this thing to rest all the way down. It just doesn't want to play ball today. So that's more or less his robot mode. Should be less of a gap here, but for my copy, it looks like it's just not meant to be. And here they are with Iron Tread and Rycon again. And now you can really see the molding differences between them. Specifically, it's the chest and head assemblies for them. And I did go over that in more detail in the review that I did for these guys, so if you want to learn about the origins of those changes, go ahead and check that out. One thing you'll notice is that his little hood piece is actually sitting more flush against his back than Highjump's is, because the tolerances on that copy just seem to be a little bit better. Everything lines up better. So it's frustrating, but know that this doesn't necessarily mean that your Highjump will have the same issue. Mine just happens to be molded in such a way to where it doesn't want to work with me. Honestly, between these guys, I think I prefer the coloration of their retools more than them. Especially when it comes to Powertrain and Iron Tread. His colors are just too eye-searing for me. They look kind of silly. His look a little more down to earth, more realistic. I love the silver on his helmet and his chest there. These two are a little closer in quality, but I still kind of like Rycon more. Right now it's time to be confounded by the confounder cannon. So I'm actually going to stray from the instructions a little bit, and you'll see why. So we're going to lift the hood up there, move the arms just as far out. Honestly, just kind of put them down, get them out of the way. Separate the legs. Now, the reason I did it this way is it gives us more room to kind of get our fingers in there and pull out these gun barrels, which are kind of a pain to get out from the get-go. So giving yourself more room between the legs is helpful. All right, and even with that added space, you may still need some sort of an object or tool to pry these out. My copy, they're really tight. I actually just had to use something to pull these out of there. Which, you know, mentioning that, I've been noticing an ever-growing trend amongst like Generations-era toys that a lot of them will have these small parts that are usually, you know, folded into cavities, you know, whether it's like fists, gun barrels, that are really tight and almost always require you to get some sort of, you know, external tool or something to help with that. And honestly, it's getting kind of annoying. You shouldn't need something besides your own digits to do this. But all right, rant over. Once you get the gun barrels out, close the legs back up, push the arms back in, and then there's a handle here, which may or may not need a tool to pull out also. All right, I'm actually going to show you all this just to give you an idea of how difficult these can be. So I just have this little flathead screwdriver bit here, and I'm just going to slide it in, use it to kind of pry this handle up. Now be careful if you are using a metal tool on plastic, because metal will very easily put some gouges and cuts in your plastic. So you want to really watch how much force you use and how you apply it if you go that route. Or hopefully you just get a copy that's better than mine and you don't have to do that. Anyway, go ahead, fold the hood down. So now you basically have the truck mode with gun barrels on the back and a handle coming out of the bottom. And now for high jump, you're going to pull this handle out, and I'm just going to use my tool from the get-go because I'm honestly growing frustrated with these. So just pull that out. You're going to separate the arms for a moment, detach this rear section, and then you're going to kind of fold it back up underneath the hood like that, more or less. Make sure the feet stay together. So yeah, there's that. And you just plug the arms back in. So you're gonna get this weird misshapen vehicle thing. And lastly, take in Powertrain, put them upside down, plugging this post into this hole in Highjump's chest. It's a really tight fit, so I have to fight with it a little bit. Alright, so once you get that as far as it'll go, you're just gonna kind of straighten his legs out. And they're gonna rest kind of just over Powertrain's crotch piece, for lack of a better term. And yeah, this is the confounder cannon. It's hideous. I hate it. All right, to really show off how these are supposed to work, here's Ironhide wielding both weapons. One thing I found is that transforming the retools into these weapon modes was a bit easier because their little handles and bits aren't quite as tight, don't require as much force. The downside to that, because they're looser, is that they're not weight bearing at all. So they just flop down. They're just really disappointing. And this one, top handle works pretty well, but then Powertrain sags. So these are, I mean, I'm not a fan of most of the weapon modes, but I think this one's got to be my least favorite by far. I mean, not only does it just look ridiculous, though most of them look ridiculous, functionally it's just garbage. It doesn't hold together well. It's too heavy for its own good. I hate it. I really do. That being said, I don't hate these toys. I think they're a lot of fun for 2 out of their 3 modes. Luckily, the weapon modes aren't really invasive. They don't, cause any kind of issues with enjoying the main transformations for these toys. So I do still recommend picking them up. They are a lot of fun in their, especially the robot modes. I think they have some very cool robot modes. But they are plagued by tolerance issues, at least my copies are, which means there's a good chance yours will be too. So out of all the Micromasters I reviewed, I probably recommend these guys the least. They're more frustrating than fun, if you ask me. I know it's an unusually negative take on a toy. I'm, a bit more forgiving, but honestly, it just wasn't fun to transform these at all. But that is only my opinion. Perhaps you feel differently. Maybe your copies are better. Maybe you enjoyed them more. Feel free to let me know in the comments section. If you did enjoy this review, make sure to toss it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like it or any of my other content, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you all for joining me at this brief look at these little Micromasters. And with all that said, I will see you next time.